Spoilers for episode 20, Clouds on the Horizon. Here's what I noticed from watching the episode. On the table next to Belos and the door is a branding glove and another crescent disc just like from Elsewhere and Elsewhen. Plus, this is the same crypt from that episode.
This is just a trick to get me to wear clothes! Well, it won't work!
It worked. Ida jokes that she thought Luz would carve something cute like a tarantula. This unintentionally references the one from Philip's journal from Knock Knock Knockin' on Hooty's door. The fact that Luz would carve an egg for her palisman was surprisingly hinted from the very first episode. The Good Witch Azora also had a blue egg-shaped tip at the end of her staff. There's some neat visual storytelling that shows us that because some children were too young, some witches had to stay behind in the old world to take care of them. Willow's getting closer and closer to her official beta design. Based on the natural organs on the inside, the device that Luz and Amity were using to communicate wasn't actually from the human realm, but from the demon realm. If anyone was wondering where the budget for the second half of the season went, I think we found it. Also, Edric and Emra seem to be nearby for a lot of Lumity firsts. The show very intentionally reminds us that Ida has the ability to remove her limbs. This means that even if she does get a sigil, it's possible it'll get resolved by removing her arm. Speaking of if, Ida doesn't appear to have a sigil on the arm she supposedly got branded, at least where it should be considering where we see Alidor's seconds later. The Coven outfits are just illusions from Gus, so it's a little weird that Luz is able to toss King a physical helmet when telling him to keep guard. Also, there's a consistency error in that the cloak King is wearing is just an illusion, so it's odd that the cloak stayed on even after Gus deactivated everyone else's. There's a mouse that looks like Alidor in his workshop, which means one of two things. First, and more likely, it's just his palisman. Or, second, he somehow was turned into a mouse and the Alidor we see for the rest of the episode is an illusion from Adrian Gray, the Illusion Coven head. But it's probably just his palisman. Willow makes a possible Spider-Man reference.
I'm an asset gal myself.
I'm something of a scientist myself.
If you thought these wild witches looked pretty unique for being extras, that would be because they're based on K-pop members, according to Bo Coburn, the director of this episode. Amity breaks out using what she learned from Ida from Eclipse Lake. We now know where Amity gets her tomato rage from. Since Luz is actually Hunter, it's interesting that the first person Hunter wants to protect is Willow. Also, completely unrelated, does this shot look similar to anyone else? This week's Rune of Code is right beside this awesome shot of Willow and translates to father. If you look carefully, Lunter has a gap in their teeth, hinting that it's not Luz. Moments later, Hunter looks at his hands and realizes that he actually looks like Luz. And last but not least, for the purposes of this kind of video, I try to avoid theories and only focus on factual information. But since Kikimora said that the Emperor knew the cats were at the Day of Unity, this means that there's a spy within the cats, and I think I know who it is. While there are suspicious characters like Steve, who we only got to know in depth recently and appears to have his mole in the incorrect place in this episode, I think the actual spy is none other than Rain Whispers. But not how you'd think. There's an odd amount of focus on Rain watching over Ida in this episode, like this shot here, and Ida literally saying,
"Not only that, but I got the Rain Whispers watching out for me."
This combined with Kikimora saying the Emperor's eyes are pointed at the Owl Lady is quite suspicious. On top of that, in the episode Hollow Mind, Hunter says,
"I heard whispers of an attempt to invade the Emperor's mind with wild magic."
Another allusion to Rain Whispers, who was a part of that plan. All this evidence could be foreshadowing Rain being responsible, but not willingly. In fact, it's likely that Rain doesn't even know they're a mole, foreshadowed by what seems to be a snapdragon flower constantly surrounding Ida and Rain. It could be that Terra's looking through Rain's eyes through some sort of variation of a scrying potion. Again, I'll preface that by saying that this specifically is just a theory, but something worth noting. Anyway, if you haven't already, make sure that you're subscribed to join the Witch Appreciation Society. I've been Danny K, and remember to do something nice for yourself today. This is it. One more episode of this season. I'll see you all for King's Tide. In times like this especially, stay wild, witches. Now more than ever.